Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari was missing corners at Marina Bay. Fernando Alonso was screaming on the radio, and what looked like one of the clearest safety violations of the season just became the most complicated controversy in Formula One, because when Hamilton and Ferrari boss Fred Vasseur finally responded to Alonso's explosive accusations, they didn't apologize. They didn't back down. They completely dismantled the entire narrative piece by piece. And what they revealed changes everything about what actually happened in Singapore. The scene at Marina Bay was chaotic. Hamilton's SF-25 was limping around the circuit with catastrophic brake failure. Corner after corner, he was missing apexes, running wide, the car barely stopping. Behind him, Alonso was watching in disbelief. A rival with almost no brakes being allowed to stay out on track, potentially endangering everyone around him. Then came the radio message that set social media ablaze. Alonso's voice rising with fury. "Is it safe to drive with no brakes? 5 seconds minimum. You cannot drive when the car is not safe." It was vintage Alonso, completely unfiltered, passionate, and furious. Within moments, his rant became the story of the weekend. The optics were terrible for Ferrari. Their star driver, the 7-time world champion, appearing to drive an unsafe car around one of the most demanding street circuits on the calendar, missing braking points, losing massive amounts of time, and somehow being allowed to continue. The FIA agreed, handing Hamilton a 5-second penalty. Case closed, right? But hold on, because what Hamilton said after the race, and more importantly, what Fred Vasseur revealed about Ferrari's internal data, tells a completely different story about what was really happening inside that cockpit. Hamilton's first response was measured, almost understated. He explained that yes, the brakes were failing dramatically, but he insisted he'd been in control the entire time. "I was trying to cut corners," he told his engineer during the race, frustration clear in his voice, but precision still evident in his driving. To Hamilton, the accusation that he'd endangered others wasn't just unfair, it was completely wrong. He'd slowed down massively, losing over 30 seconds to the leaders. He'd done everything possible to ensure safety. This wasn't recklessness, he argued. This was a veteran managing an impossible situation with poise. But here's where it gets more complex. Fred Vasseur stepped up with something Alonso didn't have: the telemetry data. And the Frenchman didn't mince words. He explained that Hamilton's pace was heavily reduced in the final laps precisely because of the brake issue, and that Ferrari had full oversight of every data point from the car. In terms of safety, yes, it was under control, Vasseur said firmly. Lewis slowed down massively. It was on the safe side. Then came a chuckle, a small laugh that spoke volumes about Ferrari's confidence in their position. He pointed out that while being 30 seconds off the pace wasn't ideal, safety always came first. That laugh wasn't arrogance, it was composure. Ferrari wasn't backing down. They were pushing back with facts. But the most revealing part of Ferrari's defense wasn't about the brake failure at all. It was about what had been happening to both Ferraris from the very start of the race. Something that completely reframes Hamilton's struggles. Vasseur revealed something crucial. Both Hamilton and his teammate had been suffering from brake and tire temperature spikes almost immediately after the start. From as early as lap 2, both Ferrari drivers were instructed to lift and coast to manage overheating. This wasn't a sudden brake failure in the closing laps. This was a race-long crisis that Ferrari had been managing from the very beginning. "We had to lift and coast for most of the race," Vasseur admitted, detailing how both drivers were constantly adjusting their braking points and balance to avoid overheating. His tone was one of exhaustion mixed with defiance. He knew how it looked from the outside, but he also knew the data told a different story. "When we pushed for a few laps, the pace was decent," he explained. "But you can't do 95% of a race on the back foot." Hamilton echoed this, with his own pointed comment after the race. "It's not like I was pushing like hell," he said with a wry smile. "We were just trying to bring the car home." That comment, understated yet sharp, highlighted how misunderstood the situation had become. This wasn't a driver losing control and endangering others. This was a 7-time world champion performing a delicate balancing act, nursing a wounded car around one of Formula One's most demanding circuits, while following team instructions for 95% of the race. Which raises the real question: was Alonso actually wrong to be furious? Or was this a case where both drivers were technically right, but seeing two completely different versions of the same race? The FIA's decision to hand Hamilton a 5-second penalty only deepened the controversy. The steward's justification stated that his brake issue was not a valid reason for leaving the track, treating it like a simple track limits violation. But can a mechanical failure that leaves a driver with almost no stopping power really be compared to a driver simply running wide? Hamilton didn't contest the penalty publicly. His silence spoke volumes. He knew that challenging the FIA after such a chaotic race would do more harm than good. Instead, he let his driving and his composure speak for themselves. The paddock reactions split down the middle. Some sided with Alonso, demanding consistency from the FIA and echoing his safety concerns. Others rallied behind Hamilton and Vasseur, praising their professionalism and restraint under fire. What made this situation so fascinating was that both camps were technically correct. Alonso was justified in raising safety concerns from his perspective, watching a car miss corners lap after lap, and Hamilton was equally justified in insisting he had the situation under control, because Ferrari's data showed he'd slowed dramatically and was managing the crisis. It was Formula One at its most dramatic, raw, emotional, and deeply human. Two former teammates, two world champions, two completely different approaches to chaos. Alonso, all fire and fury. Hamilton, cool and defiant under pressure. But what tipped the narrative in Hamilton's favor was his tone throughout. There was no anger, no defensiveness, just a quiet certainty that he'd done the right thing. That approach resonated with fans who've watched Hamilton evolve from the fiery rookie who once clashed with Alonso into a composed leader capable of diffusing even the fiercest criticism. Then came Hamilton's final move. A playful Instagram post referencing the phrase "I don't believe it," a direct wink at Alonso's furious radio line, "I cannot believe it." It was bold, cheeky, and utterly British. It transformed what could have been a bitter feud into a moment of lighthearted rivalry. It showed Hamilton wasn't rattled. He was amused. He'd taken one of the weekend's angriest moments and turned it into content. And in modern Formula One, that might be the ultimate victory. So here's what we're left wondering. Will the FIA clarify their position on mechanical failures versus track limits? Will Ferrari's brake temperature issues continue to plague them at high-stress circuits? And most importantly, is this rivalry between Hamilton and Alonso, two legends of the sport, about to reignite in ways we haven't seen since their explosive 2007 season together? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think was really in the wrong here? And if you want more deep dives into F1's biggest controversies, make sure you're subscribed, because this season is far from over.